for second guessing.
We never know the story that will reflect each of our lives. There are people, places, and events woven together like a bird weaves a nest from the items that it finds. The author of this story belongs to something far greater than myself. But with that pen from God, I have a story to share with the goal of helping others. A bird in a cage can still sing. A bird in a cage can still move, but a bird in a cage cannot fly. As someone impacted by domestic violence, the image of a caged bird depicts the barrier I felt between who I was stripped to be and who I really was. Throughout my journey back to who I am in God's image, I found myself thinking about symbolism. The etymology of symbol comes from symbolum, as a sign or recognition. I recognize myself in that situation and through this symbol, but instead of flying free, I searched for justification and statistics as to why the cage was built in the first place. I learned the only path forward toward freedom in flight was to be vulnerable and connect forward with who I was meant to be. A few years ago, I was able to travel across the country helping organizations that support people with disabilities. And through those times in those places, I was able to have individual conversations with people to know their definitions of quality of life. These conversations ultimately help improve services. Within those discussions, we cover safety, health, connections, and dreams. I love this work, and I'm proud I continue it today. As I was measuring quality, taking qualitative information and applying it to quantitative measures, I took a step back in a way I never had, and I started thinking what my score might be. The higher the score, the better one's quality of life. Like a bird waking up for the day, I thought about safety. That was not there. There were bruises, time hiding in locked closets, and outfit decisions that demonstrated that. Health, that was no longer there because I was no longer allowed to see doctors I saw previously without permission. They would have seen the damage. Connections were gone because family and friends were isolated from my life more and more. My dreams went from travel, hockey, and time with people I love to one of survival, and please let my son and I make it to tomorrow. Something had to change. I started looking up divorce attorneys, but that's as far as it went. Apologies and a couple quiet days gave me hope. The hope diminished in one awful night, and I became more and more protective over the cage that now included my son. He was at an age where he could move and absorb the situation, and I could never let him be in harm's way. He saved my life because I advocated with him in mind. Looking back, advocacy represented the first time I began to peek through the slats of the cage. I also cared for someone with a disability. Her name was Jill, and she was coming to town at the time, and I could not let these two defenseless people be in the orbit of risk. I left the cage with my son and Jill safely in tow. Now, simply because we left the cage, it did not mean we were out of harm's way. No, this was an incredibly frightening time, and I was at my weakest. I could advocate for my son and Jill, but that was as far as my energy could go. My parents, family, friends, coworkers, and attorney held me up like the wounded bird I was. I remember being in my attorney's office, and she kept telling me over and over I had value. I will never forget her question when she asked, "Would you rather be divorced or dead?" She and others repeated I had value. I listened, but I could not absorb. After the initial departure and many years in court, I began to live life out of the cage. But instead of flying when that cage door opened, my bird fell into wet cement. I lived life stuck, like I was waiting for permission to fly or something to swoop me back up and place me back in the situation I left. I was living life with value placed on another. Looking back, I never advocated for myself. I never advocated for my identity to return. I was looking back rather than within to know I had value. Returning to symbolism, I recently began exploring how birds fly. I learned that birds rely on instinct. My instinct back to the day I left was to help others. It's been my calling and what I've loved my entire life. After taking the leap, I've been able to help others who have gone through similar experiences. I've been honored to help people prepare and feel confident in court. As an advocate, this is how God sees me, a reflection, a symbol. Knowing myself, I feel my soul is stronger. I became resilient through the abuse that endured, but not stronger in who I was. Now I am. To keep the momentum and continue to fly, I will always advocate for people with disabilities. Every single person has value. I will advocate for my son for life, and I advocate for myself as well. With the bird's eye view on the entire experience, I realized I had to be vulnerable to be courageous. There are things I possibly could have done differently, but my past no longer acts as a weight holding me back. I no longer identify with the cage. I'm now the bird. The flaws, feathers, crash flights have led me to today to be able to advocate through stories and resources. I have value no matter what flight path I took. To share my experience and advocate for others, I developed tools to protect one's safety and their purpose. I developed Start Protecting Yourself, to help people develop place a magnifying glass to their soul. I developed Dove to help people document, observe, verbalize, and build emergency planning for those impacted by domestic abuse. I have value, you have value. Seeing one's own gifts and talents brings forward the value we all have, just as a bird relies on instinct for flight. No matter how I heard I had value, I had to discover it and feel it on my own. Tonight, I want each of you to go forward with one last symbol. I want you to picture that bird flying. So I want you to think about forward, loving yourself, fly. I will join in that flight too.
Somebody asked me, what's the purpose of this? And not in a mean way, but a really curious way. And I said, once you stand here and share your story, you never can go back. All you can do is grow and fly. And so many of us have cages of different types. I can look at so many of the women in the alum group and know that there were some of their cages that they opened up on this stage here tonight. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. So, yes. And it was through this experience that you started you'd always been developing these tools. They've been around a while. But we said, Lucy, they have to come out into the world. So I'd like you to grab your phone and go to Instagram. And what is the Instagram? Is it called a handle?
Spy_you have value.
Spy_you have value. So as a result of this experience, Lucy is going to start putting these tools out into the world to help other victims of domestic violence. So when I talk about inspired authenticity, sure, it's for us to feel better, but it's certainly about the connections that you can make to help others. So please follow her account, share it with anybody that you think might need some of these tools, because I know it's going to help so many.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got more people to thank.
Yeah.
Where are your OPG people? Y'all, this organization, I've had the privilege of working with both Lucy and Andrea, their CEO, and not only is it a passionate organization about the work that they do, it's award-winning in its quality thanks to their chief strategy officer and the CEO, and financially healthy and viable. You're doing amazing things in the world, and we're so grateful to be a part of that experience with you. Thank you for being here and supporting Lucy like I know you always do. And let's thank somebody else.
Yeah.
Like I said, when you are authentic and do things authentically, you meet people.
Yep.
And so you were at a Gibson event.
Yeah.
And I was the speaker. And because of that experience, we met each other.
Yep.
And now we're here tonight. And I can't even imagine how many women are going to be helped because of Lucy. You see how this works, right? One thing connects to another, connects to another, connects to another, but we got to stand up for what we believe in. So Gibson, you have been around here since, thank you, Lucy.
Yes, thank
you have been around since the beginning. Where's my Gibson people at?